Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. At the time of filming this, today was supposed to be my day off. But on that day off, it appears that Kuro Games just went ahead and dropped some of the most important news ever regarding version 3.0, its event schedule. And knowing that this update is only just about 2 days away, I thought that this would be an awesome opportunity for us to actually go through, start breaking down everything that's actually arriving in this update. And also take a look at something very important as well. The rewards, because there's a lack of clarity when it comes to things like astrite count, pulls, so on and so forth, simply due to the fact that this is a new version update. So what I wanted to do was, again, just go ahead, walk through all of the different things that are going to be arriving in 3.0 and detail where there maybe needs to be some additional commentary, because there's a lot of potentially controversial stuff in here. And we'll be taking a look at a situation that's actually been brewing involving a CC a bit later on. Don't worry, there's no actual drama in here. We're just commenting on the issue. So first things first, in version 3.0, you're going to have all the main quests, right? 2 new chapters. And one thing that Kuro isn't showing when it comes to this breakdown is how much astrite and other rewards are actually arriving with these quests. Just keep in mind that every time you complete a chapter in these stories, right, or like an act, and there are various numbers of those, you get like astrite and a bunch of other stuff. So final counts aren't going to be shown over here, but I can imagine that they are a pretty decent chunk, knowing what we've had in the past. You're also going to have the new region. And I think that there's a reason for why Kuro Games decided to put these first. It's because there's a lot of actual astrite in here that can't really be shown. Think about every single chest. Think about every single collectible. Think about all of the different places on the map that we're going to be able to go to. And they'll all give, you know, like 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 astrite for some of the big chests. That's not really like a numerical amount that can be put on the screen. And when we know that version 2.0, Renacida, version 2.0 had around 140 plus pulls and like over 50, 60 of those came from exploration. I can imagine with all of the new regions that we're going to be, or all of like the sub-regions that we're going to be having in Lahai Roi, we're going to be seeing a pretty similar count. Because 2.0 was huge. And I don't think Kuro's going to go ahead, and especially with knowing that this is what Kuro has essentially shown us in regards to these regions, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I feel like there's probably going to be a lot of stuff to collect in here. It almost looks like we're looking at like 3 or 4 different games, if I'm frankly being honest. That's just a little bit of a breakdown over there for some of the unnamed astrite counts, because we're also going to have doubled pawns matrix. And so this is one event that we know actually is going to be recurring. It is something that's only going to run once this patch though. But I do know that this is actually going to give 400 astrite. But because it's being counted as a regular recurring endgame in the similar vein as, well, Whimpering Wastes, as well as the Tower of Adversity, we all know that when it comes to the astrite counts over here, this one's given about 800, this one's given about, okay, it's not showing the actual count over here, but it gives a similar amount too. Doubled Pawns Matrix is going to be on the lower end, but think of it as something that's getting added onto the recurring astrite loop that we already have. So it being on the lower end, in my opinion, isn't something that's too crazy, especially knowing that it has higher requirements to actually enter. You need to be able to get at least 24 stars in the TOA to be able to enter that new game mode, and you have to clear at least 3,500 points on the last level of Whimpering Wastes. So that means getting at least this one over here. So you got to have at least like a somewhat built account to even be able to challenge this in the first place. Now that we've covered doubled pawns matrix, now let's move on to another permanent event that we're going to be having. This is going to be a similar sort of vein as the mini games that we've actually had in the past, Operation Frontier Renewal. And so this one over here is going to remind you a little bit about like Arknight's Enfield, kind of like, you know, where you're like rebuilding various parts of Lahai Roi. But unfortunately, we haven't been given the actual astrite counts for this one just yet. But as you can see with the interface that we got going on over there, it's going to be a bit more interactive than some of the other mini games that we've had. Looks pretty good overall. For the last round of like permanent content, right, that's going to be built upon in future versions, the new tactical holograms. And I'm very excited for this one over here featuring Dreamless, especially when you consider the fact that I think that they showcased her with like an updated moveset in the actual trailer. And I think they also mentioned that there were going to be some new mechanics in the fight 2 just to spice up the hologram experience. So that's looking solid. Now, we're getting into the actual reward counts. So, we got that 10 pull that's just arriving along with 10 solvents just in the mail when the update begins. So, we're going to be getting that immediately. Then we're going to be having Lehigh Roy Pioneers, and that's going to be another sort of like exploration event that's going to actually start off our asteroid totals. So that one's going to be a nice 500 and also have a bunch of other rewards that will be related to level ups for all of the new units. Then we're going to have that 7-day login event that's going to give 5 more limited pulls and of course 5 standard pulls, which are going to be a lot more useful, especially when you know just how good so many of these new standard weapons actually are. So that's going to make this part of our login rewards every single update so much more impactful. Then you're going to have a nice little photo collection event. These are, again, just another 270. And then Peaks of Prestige. And so we're going to get 400 asteroid from this, as well as a Phantom Chop Chop and more of those upgrade materials. So you can see over here, the asteroid count is building up. And then when you factor in this low one that we're going to be having here, another 400 alongside 5 more standard pulls. So we're looking at 10 for the update. And then we got this leisure racing event. The asteroid totals of this patch, as I've gone through and tallied all of these up, you can see that there's a good blend of leisure events and a good blend of, exploration events as well, and some mini games. This patch is loaded. And of course, it's also going to have a returning event. And when I was counting up the totals, guys, I made sure not to include this 480 or this 50. So factoring in all of the events, leisure ones where there's not going to be that much activity, not factoring the ones like the Sonic collab over here that don't actually give asteroid, we're looking at about 2650 asteroid just from the events. So about a 10 pull and a half alongside 15 pulls in rewards. So that brings it up, I would say, to around about, if we're just going to be fair, 30 pulls from the events that we're seeing over here. But when you combine that, ladies and gentlemen, with the fact that we also have the unannounced tactical hologram asteroid, Operation Frontier Renewal asteroid, it's going to be a lot more. Do you want to know why? Because these new permanent events that we have every single update, just think about it this way. Remember Tidal Defense Simulator? Phantasma Dreamland? You're only seeing like 300 asteroid over here. That's because when they were the live main event of the version, like how Frontier Renewal is, they gave like a whole 10 pull for doing the event. So you might be able to throw on just an additional 10 from there, just knowing what we've had in the past. Because all of these like permanent events usually end up giving a lot. So now we're closer to like 40. Then you factor in the 2 endgame resets that happen all the time. Then we're at like 50. And you can kind of see how these new version updates always end up having a shit ton of pulls. I wouldn't be surprised if we're close to like the 140, 150, 160 mark, right? Especially knowing what we've had in version 2.0. And, well, let's just say no matter what your pulling plans are, you're probably going to be happy with them. We're also going to have the Sonic, Persona Sonic collab event. I'm going to be honest, I'm not really sure if anyone saw this coming or if there's anyone really particularly looking forward to this one. It's kind of just like very low commitment, sort of like stickers and stuff like that. I don't even know where you can put them. I think it's on your bike. Maybe people will be like really into it. It's just, you know, not really. I'm not really a fan of either of these two franchises, so it is what it is for me. We're going to have some limited time drop events. We all know about those. Those are great. And then you might be thinking, not too much new content to look at, right, Saint? What's all the drama about? What's the big deal? We just got the Resonator convenes. You've already covered these. All the banners are looking pretty good. All the characters looking pretty strong. Then they got the Pioneer podcast. What else could there be left? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's actually a lot more. So, Kuro Games is doing something genius. Yes, glider skins weren't that cool because gliders aren't really that cool of a thing to get a skin for. We pretty much know that from Genshin Impact history. But getting a skin for your bike, yeah, I don't know, man. That's pretty badass. Nah, I think a lot of people will really, really, really like this. And it's pretty much just as easy as making one of these, which I don't think is hard because it literally is slapping a PNG onto like the frame of the like onto the render of the bike. I do literally think that's what it is. That's how these work, even in like real life. You just have one for like every single character, right? You just use like their splash art and stuff like that. You could make one of these for everybody. And I'm sure that everyone has a favorite character. They'll cop this from the store if they're spending money in the first place. That's also going to come with some Astrite too. I also wonder if this is like 3 skins in one. That's potentially what it's looking like to me, like 3 skins in one, because I'm not sure. I don't see like this rover or this cat thing over here, or maybe it's like all combined. Who knows? But yeah, I'm excited to see how they flesh out this more in the future. And now we're gonna have the real fun, the real meat of the discussion, and that's going to be the version 3.0 featured bundles. Because boy, oh boy, I'm going to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen Kuro take this aggressive of a marketing approach before, while also giving or refreshing the top-up bonuses. So the first one's going to be the Space Trek Prep Protocol Bundle. Only one purchase, so it's implied to be a high-value one. And apparently this one's going to reset every single time a new character goes live. Like not even a new one, a rerun counts as well. So every single phase, from what this is telling me, you'll be able to, for the price of $20, get 600 Astrite, 30 gold level up mats, and I assume Gleaner's Ascension Supply. These are the Ascension materials for the new 3.0 units. So this is basically like, hey, if you forgot to farm or you want a shortcut to building the new 3.0 units, here you go. This is exactly the thing that you want to buy. And I'm going to be honest, right? I'm probably somebody that's actually going to purchase this. This is the definition of pay for convenience. This is literally the definition of, hey, I want a high value pack so that I don't have to, A, spend this money instead to buy Lunite, to then buy the stamina, to then just farm these. Because that's what you'd be doing instead, right? It might arguably be cheaper, right? To be like, oh, okay, we're gonna refresh our weight plates over here, then go spend those on the forgery challenges, and I'll be able to, if I only do 2 a day, I'll save. It's just gonna be easier to press this, and believe me, there are people that are willing to spend 5, 10, 15, whatever, because they're spending money anyways. Spend a little bit extra to be able to just take the thought out of the equation. So yeah, I don't think this gives anybody any power. It's just like, hey, great, your wave plates, you're front loading them. Next bundle that we're gonna have is gonna be a similar concept, except this one's gonna be a bit more exclusive to weekly bosses. This one's also gonna be available once a rerun, or once a new phase of banners comes in, and that's gonna be 600 Astrite, 20 weekly boss mats, and a whopping 500,000 shell credits, which is actually a decent amount, right? They do tend to go by quickly when you're leveling up. And these are inherently way more time-gated, but weekly boss mats are also some of the most useless. This is my perspective on weekly boss mats. If you're somebody that plays every single day, or every single week, and you claim these 3 every week, you never actually need them. They're actually some of the, like, those boxers are some of the most useless things you can actually buy in the game, because you have more than enough to level whatever you need on your account, assuming you do those. However, if you're somebody that quit, if you're somebody that's trying to catch up, or you're somebody that took a break, well, this is what this is for. And hey, Kuro going ahead and trying to monetize the people that are trying to, again, basically just make up for lost time, that's one of the main things in a game like this, right? And so if you're somebody that hung on from the beginning and never missed those weekly limits, you'll never have this issue. Looks fine to me. Now let's check out this big, whopping $40 pack. Might be their biggest one yet. 20 pulls and 1,000 Astrite. So that basically gets you to around like 25, 26, around like 26 actual pulls. 26 pulls for $40. I don't actually know if that's even like a reasonably like good deal. I'd have to actually compare it to some of the bundles that already exist in game. Let me see over here. This one has 1 day left. It's $30. I want to see how much this gives. So for $30, this one's giving you 15 pulls and 500 Astrite. That's about, give or take, it's about 18 pulls for $30. This one's going to be, again, like 26 pulls for 40. 40 divided by 26 will get you to about 150 per pull, while over here, you're closer to about 18 or 30 divided by 18. Yeah, this one is actually the best deal that you're going to get. But 40 pulls for like 26 doesn't even sound that great either. Do you want to know what's probably actually going to be the best deal ever? Yeah, it's probably just going to be doing your top-up bonus first. Because once these reset and you get the 2x, you'll be getting, for the price of $30, you'll be able to get over 20 pulls, right? Because that would be 1980 times 2. That's already way more efficient than any of these other bundles that you're seeing in the store or anything else that's actually getting advertised. And so if you are somebody who's looking at any of these and you're thinking, oh, golly gee, this is something that I'm going to buy ASAP. If you care like at all about any level of efficiency, don't actually go for these first. Make sure you go for the top-ups. This one, however, is a bit lower price, and it is actually one of the, I guess if you want to have like a good deal, it is going to be one of the best ones, right? One of the lowest ones per pull. This is going to give you around 8 for the price of $9.99, right? It's like a little bit more than 1. Technically the best out of all these bundles. And that's the other thing, right? You can clearly see they're adding a fuck ton of these to the game. And then they're adding even more monthly bundles on top. This one being one of the worst deals of all. All I'll say in regards to this is I don't actually think that this is much of an issue. And I think that this is actually one of the most balanced approaches that you can make to monetization in your game. Like I mentioned before, right? These packages are all arriving with the top-up bonuses. And this is what would typically occur. You should be getting the top-up bonus reset first if you're ever thinking about spending money in the first place. And then from there, other games just like don't have this shop, right? And any more spending you would do in the version would just be full price. And so these packages should really only be claimed or purchased after you've already expended all your top-up bonuses. And in that sense, it's actually just making it a lot more affordable for whales, right, to spend on the game relative to when these packages weren't there. And when no, like, cash-conscious player is ever going to purchase these, except maybe these ones, because again, these, like, save the weight plates versus these that are just pulls. When any cash-conscious player knows that these are going to be, like, a worse deal, well, I'm just going to be honest, right? Maybe they need to figure out that they are a worse deal. But the fact of the matter is that there's still better deals than going into the store and then buying this one after the top-up bonuses are actually gone. So in that sense, they're clearly trying to gather more low spenders, incentivize them to dip their toes in, drop a 20, 30, 40 or something like that. But that is offset by, well, when somebody does want to whale an S6 a fucking unit, I'm going to be real, Kuro Games. If they bought all of these, you're kind of giving them a pretty fat discount compared to prior updates, or really prior banner schedules when you didn't have all these available. That's going to be my take on it. I think that it is a sort of like double-edged sword for the company, but for the player, I'm not going to go ahead and say it's either predatory, and in a sense, I would say it's actually like somewhat friendly, because at a bare minimum, right, you are getting offered a discount if you are looking to spend at all. Compared to what we've had before, it is undoubtedly better. However, there are some takes that still need to be made, right? There are some comments that I still want to make regarding this situation over here. Well, we have a bit of a joking post from Gotcha Smack, where Narushio tweeted out the new high price bundle, right? The one that is about $40. And then Gotcha Smack proceeded to respond with the price of Claire Obscure. Expedition 33, which is a $40 game, right? Which is essentially, hey, are you going to get 26 pulls or are you going to get a whole brand new game? I think this introduces a very interesting topical area that I wanted to break down. Your money and how much you spend on a game, the value of it is entirely dependent on what you get out of the game. If a game that I bought from a Steam sale was worth $1 and it's the best fucking game I've ever played, am I then going to go look at everything else that costs more than $1 and then say it's bad? Probably not, right? There are tons of people that spend $500 on a gacha game every month, and they love it. Just look at fucking Fobmaster. He loves spending money on gacha games. There are some people that spend $0 on gacha games. Think Enviosity, and they fucking love it. The value of the money that you spend is based off of how much enjoyment the product or the service or whatever is actually giving you. And the thing is, some people, they get a lot more enjoyment out of spending $40 on this pack than they would playing Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Because to play this game, you need to be somebody who has the time to sit down for X number of hours, engage with the story that's amazing, engage with systems that are amazing, but then also, right, not be able to play it in kind of like the pick up, put down fashion that you might have for other gacha titles. And so if you're somebody, right, that, hey, you have the means to be able to enjoy this game for 40 bucks, I think that you'll be able to get a lot out of it, right? But if you're somebody, right, that only has like 20 minutes a day to game, maybe Claire Obscure, spending 40 bucks on that wouldn't be as enjoyable as this. So again, this isn't really to go out here, you know, try to like poke fun at the take over here. This is Gacha Smack saying that 40 bucks to him, 40 bucks spent on Claire Obscure is way more utility, way more enjoyment than 40 bucks that he's spending on a gacha title. And the thing is, results may vary, right? And so I don't want to see any individuals, right, going around spreading hate over this take, because it's an entirely valid take to have. There's a reason why there are people out there that will never touch a gacha, because they're all about playing those $10, $15, $20, or maybe even $60 AAA games, and then, you know, getting that sort of experience, and that's what they're into. Think about all the people that play Battlefield 6 and will never touch a gacha game. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's all about, you know, going ahead and, you know, getting into the whole... I think we can clearly see there's like, you know, a slight intention to kind of like poke fun at people that do spend this much money or that would spend this much money on a gacha title. But at the end of the day, right, brother, there are people that go out to a bar, that go out to a club and spend $2,000 on alcohol every weekend, and then they don't even remember the night. And they think that's money well spent. In a world like this, where we already got practices like this, I'm not going to be the guy that tells you to preach rationality. Or I'm not going to be the guy that, like, preaches rationality. Especially as somebody that's gone out and, lived those days in the past. Overall, I would say pretty much everything in this update and pretty much everything in this overview is looking... I mean, I'm just going to be real, right? From the information that I've seen, everything's looking fantastic. And knowing the track record of Kuro Games, when it comes to version X.0 updates and all of the massive amounts of shit that they actually put in them, pull-wise, I'm pretty sure 3.0 is going to be one of the most generous patches in the history of the game. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.